Hello, friends. Hello, readers and friends. Today is Wednesday, March 23rd, 2022. Thanks for joining me. Last week, we had an early weekend and spent 2 glorious spring days in the heart of the Marina District in San Francisco. The warm and inviting weather was postcard perfect. I was excited to discover that across the street from our hotel was the Mel's Diner on Lombard that looms large in my women's novel, Reiko. We scouted the Palace of Fine Arts, the venue where my favorite band would be playing, and managed both nights to park just a few feet from the front door. Yes, call me fangirl. The dates for their show had been postponed twice since COVID. Walking around the palace, I visited with the Graces, those statuesque women perched atop the 2 colonnades flanking the rotunda. I've always called them the Graces, and have just learned that they were called the Weeping Women. I always admired them, their backs turned to the world, contemplating their inner lives. And yet by early Friday afternoon, I was ready to pack it all in and go home. The energies of the people, the traffic, the noise, the pulsating colors were overwhelming. I felt like a country bumpkin. I realized we had not been outside our comfort zone and into the world since COVID-19. It was 2 years ago in March 2020 that we all transitioned into sheltering in place, 6 feet social distancing, donning masks, and effectively quarantining ourselves. We made it home early Saturday morning, and I could breathe again. I felt my shoulders drop below my neck, felt my breathing deep inside, just letting go. The month of March is named for the Roman god of war, Mars. Destruction, mayhem, chaos. For me and many of us, March is the beginning of spring, which means longer days, more daylight. The vernal equinox, honoring the beginning of spring in our northern hemisphere, and autumn in the southern hemisphere. And of course, the return of daylight savings. It's time to clear out gardens of winter's weeds and fallen leaves and plant flowers and fruit. Put away our winter clothes and pull out the cotton t-shirts and shorts. Store the boots and find the sneakers and sandals. I've been doing a lot of reflection this past winter, and I am finding my voice that takes me beyond my grief, moving me forwards towards life with all its uncertainties, ups and downs, the uncontrollability of life, especially around people. This far, I've touched on these topics. Believing and thinking. I believe in miracles, in the good of people, in fairies, in magic. I believe in praying for parking places. Joy. In my first woman's novel, Keita says, she began to generate an inward joy and peace which had been missing for some time. No regrets. I promised my 17-year-old that I would have no regrets. When I was writing last week's piece, I was struck by this idea. In living with no regrets, I make choices. And when I make choices, I am not a victim. There is no one to blame if the choices I make don't turn out as planned, or if they are a mistake. And believe me, I've made a few mistakes in my life. The great Erica Jong says, take your life into your own hands, and what happens? A terrible thing. No one to blame. Self-responsibility is the state or fact of being responsible, answerable, or accountable for something within one's power, control, or management. The key is being responsible or accountable for something within one's power. So I translate this as meaning the only person I've got any power over is myself. Only I can orchestrate my actions, my attitudes, my decisions. I have no control over anyone else's actions or attitudes, as frustrating as that may seem. Self-responsibility means I don't get to blame anyone, and that ultimately eliminates my being a victim. I don't know about you, but for me, this is huge. Joan Didion says, character, the willingness to accept responsibility for one's own life, is the source from which self-respect springs. So how do I know I'm self-responsible? There's a few sort of inner triggers within me. Um, the first one is I have an internal cutoff, or boundaries, if you will. I believe that no is a complete sentence. Self-responsibility gives me a sense of control over my life. Natalie Goldberg says, this is your life. You are responsible for it. You will not live forever. Don't wait. I practice self-care. I allow myself the time and space to just do nothing. No phones, no computers, no TV, no reading, no talking. Just being with myself. I do this to avoid what Alanis Morissette says in her song, Sorry to Myself. I'm sorry to myself for treating me worse than I would anybody else. I have support. There are a handful of people who I am vulnerable with, who ask me the hard questions, and with them I can laugh at myself. I'm able to be myself. In one of her famous letters, Emily Dickinson says, I felt it shelter to speak to you. The other piece is that I know I'm imperfect and I make mistakes. I found this quote from David Bowie years ago. Aging is an extraordinary process where you become the person you always should have been. So who in Walkerville practices self-responsibility? Pretty much everyone. Martha Janine knew she needed to become her own person rather than an extension of a husband. Sue Reynolds wanted friends, a community, and her secret was costing her way too much. Francis sold his business, which was taking too much time away from his children. Fiona wanted a more hands-on approach with the Montrose agricultural operations, as did Paz with the Miyoshi farm. And after years of not knowing what she wanted to do with her life, Bea discovered she was an excellent electrician. Big-hearted Ted wanted to help Ronnie's widow and finally admitted to himself and her after many years that he had feelings for Sue. And Ruth had come to the realization that being with Trevor was much more important than having the perfect wedding. How do I continue to live this life? To want to engage, to be curious, to be creative, to be a friend, a spouse. How do I continue to be a childless mother? Ruth Bader Ginsburg said, so often in life, things you regard as an impediment turn out to be great good fortune. I'm curious to know what the idea of self-responsibility means to you. You can message me through Facebook, Instagram, or email. The description below has information how to do that. I really appreciate you joining me today. And, of course, I remind you that YouTube counts everything. It helps a lot if you give this video a thumbs up and click the red subscribe button. And I hope you'll share my links with anyone you think would like to join us. Plus, we're always looking for new readers. Remember, a personal recommendation from a friend is the best introduction to a writer. So please do share my stories. The address on my Amazon page is in the description. All the Walkerville books are available to purchase in both Kindle and print editions. Of course, you'll find the direct link for next Wednesday's live chat there as well. Hope to see you then. Thank you so much for joining us, and enjoy spring. See you next week.